time hiding it, they get curious.
Tell me about the aliens. Tell me about the bodies that were found. Were they good-looking people, or were they...
Oh, yeah, they were. They didn't have any of these, slanted eyes or horny fingers, anything like that. They were... I don't know whether you want to call them people or so. I call them people because that's what I'm accustomed to looking at somebody as people, see. They were good-looking people. Fine skin. They were kind of ash-colored. That was the color of their skin. Eyes were just a little bit larger than ours, more pronounced. Small nose, a little small mouth, very small ears, see. No hair. Very fine features, very well built. Maybe 5'4", 5'5" in height. That's what I could remember seeing.
Frank, in your personal opinion, what happened here in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico? What is your bottom line?
That in 1947, I can only put it this way, that a craft of unknown origin crashed north of Roswell. It was recovered with bodies not of this earth, which proved that we are not alone in this vast universe of ours.
According to UFO believers, the Greys first made contact through a much-debated 1947 crash in the desert outside Roswell, New Mexico.
The Roswell story is that a rancher named Mac Brazel came into Roswell and told a story to the newspaper about how he had found some strange debris. And from that incident, the Roswell incident, we've now got an elaborate story that many of the American public think is a story of flying saucer wreckage and perhaps little alien greys whose corpses were scattered about, some of whom may have survived alive and are hidden away at some secret facility.
The official U.S. government position was that a large spy balloon went down at Roswell, not an alien spaceship. The balloon was part of a secret project designed to detect emissions from Soviet nuclear tests. But ufologists believe otherwise.
The Roswell story has been debated by a lot of people. But one thing that we know is that something came down about 75 miles north of Roswell Army Airfield in the summer of 1947. This was investigated by the 509th Bomber Unit's Chief Intelligence Officer, who was Captain Jesse Marcel. We know that some of this debris was taken back to the Army Air Base. We know that Marcel and the Army Air Base commander, Colonel Blanchard, thought that this was material from a flying disc. And we know that they thought this because a press release went out immediately announcing that the U.S. Army recovered one of the infamous flying discs that was in the news at that time.
In the years since the Roswell incident, advocates claim that all contact between the Greys and the US government has been kept top secret. Despite repeated official government denials that a UFO crashed in the New Mexico desert, the stories won't die.
There are now more than 400 individuals on the public record who said, I was there, I picked up pieces, I saw pieces of wreckage, I saw the craft, I saw the bodies. So Roswell is simply a question of belief. Who do you choose to believe?
Early on the morning of July 5th, rancher Mac Brazel, accompanied by D. Proctor, the son of a neighbor, rode out to see the damage the storm from the previous night had done. The sight that met their eyes stunned them. There before them, about 5 miles from the ranch house, was a debris field some 200 yards wide and over 3/4 of a mile long. Fragments of metallic parts lay everywhere. Something must have crashed there. A plane? It must have exploded. A weather balloon? Impossible. Brazel had already found over a dozen weather and test balloons on his land. It was clear to him that this was something different. Some of the pieces were silvery, but most of them had a dull metallic surface. There were rods and beams covered with hieroglyphic-like writing. The material was very light, couldn't be cut, and wouldn't bend. Mac took some of the material with him in his saddlebags. He showed it to Dee's parents and to friends in Corona that evening. On the morning of July 7th, Mac Brazel, Major Marcel, and Captain Cabot were back at the Foster Ranch to investigate the debris field. Marcel and Cabot collected material all afternoon, filled their vehicles, and made their way back to Roswell Army Airfield. On the way, Marcel stopped by his home late that night. He woke up his wife and son, Jesse Jr., to share with them what he had found. He took a few pieces of debris into the house and spread them out on the kitchen floor. "This is something very special," he said to his son. "It doesn't come from this world, and I want you to remember this all."
Here, the story would take a remarkable turn. General Roger Ramey, the commanding officer there, called a press conference in his office. In front of photographers, he invited Major Marcel to display the material he had brought from Roswell. The base duty weather officer was also ordered to attend so that he could give his verdict to the press as to precisely what Marcel was holding in his hands.
The general called and said, "Get your ass over here to my office. We got something here we want you to look at." And aye, sir. And he says, "If you've got a car, fine. If you haven't, get one. Get the first means of transportation and get over to my office." And when I saw that, I said, "Is that your flying saucer?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, hell no. That's a Raven target and balloon. And if it isn't," I said, "I'd eat it without salt or pepper. I know what that is." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. I know what that is."
This is what I would like to show you. In here, this is the photograph of the debris that was seen in General Ramey's office at Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas. This is my father holding up what is very obviously parts of radar target with balloon debris. In here, you see balsa wood fragments. You have actually parts of the balloon envelope in of itself, and you have what looks like paperback metal foil. And to emphasize this, this is not what was seen on the floor of our kitchen that evening or that late early morning hours in 1947. This is totally different.
The implication is that Major Marcel may have been ordered to take part in a cover-up that involved switching the material from Roswell for a common weather balloon. General Ramey and the Air Force now discounted their earlier press announcements that they had found a flying saucer. The story was officially dead. There were other witnesses with strange reports of aliens. Fireman Dan Dwyer told his daughter Frankie what he had seen.
He said it did not come from this world. Did not look like anything he had ever seen. And he said there were little people out there. And Mother asked him what he meant by little people, and he said they weren't human people, but they were little people. He said there were two that were already dead when they got there, and they were put into body bags. And I don't know if the one that was still alive had put them into the bags or if someone assisted at the time. There was one that was still alive and was walking around.
At the sheriff's office, Sheriff Wilcox's wife later told her daughter what had really happened.
She said that there was a flying saucer, and that they even found some bodies by it, and one of them was alive, and that the Army Air Force had come and threatened my father and his family to not mention anything at all about it.